Hello to all of you wonderful moms out there. This is episode 93 of Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life. I'm your host, Anoki Kapasi, and I'm here to empower you with life planning tools so that you can envision, plan, and take action on your big ideas while prioritizing family. So you're a busy mom who's built a successful career, but right now you're constantly rushing through your day. You're scattered between getting everyone out the door, managing work deadlines, and maybe squeezing in all those unseen tasks that no one else notices. Or maybe you're stuck in the opposite problem when certain activities drag on way longer than they should, leaving you feeling frustrated and behind schedule. I know what it's like to feel overwhelmed trying to juggle those responsibilities. When you feel so limited in how much personal time and space that you get, that every second feels so accounted for, and none of it really feels quite right because why is it so exhausting? And why does it feel like I'm not even productive when the day finally ends? Well, today's episode is a bit different because I'm actually sharing some practical strategies that I developed only recently through a bit of experimentation to help you find the right cadence for your day. You're going to learn how to balance speed and depth in your daily routines. Create some purposeful rhythms that are going to support your family, your values, your boundaries, and also to finally achieve that sense of peace and structure that you're craving. So if you're struggling with feeling so rushed and it all leaves you feeling scattered and disconnected from the things that actually matter to you, and you want to then move to something that's going to allow you to thrive while you pursue your ambitions, your goals every day, then I want you to try some of these intentional pacing strategies that are going to help you be both productive and present. Does that sound good? All right, then let's do it. Are you looking for a way to blend success and motherhood without losing sight of who you are? I get it. I've been there too. Hi, I'm Anoki, a PhD researcher, business owner, and homeschooling mom of 2 boys. As your life coach, I help moms like you create a life you love at home and at work. If you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed, overscheduled, and overlooked, and want a clear roadmap to a balanced life, a meaningful career, and finally feeling like yourself again while being the awesome mama that you are, you're in the right place. In this journey to create the life you truly desire, it's time to rediscover your dreams and achieve your ambitious mom life. Before we dive into today's content, I wanted to share something that really lights me up about the work that I do. You know, one of the things that I hear most often from the moms I work with is, I feel like I'm drowning in everything I need to manage at home, in my business, just everywhere. But the amazing thing is that once I help my clients create systems and workflows that actually work for their unique life, everything starts to shift. I recently worked with a client, Aubrey, who's building a business while managing a very full life. She came to me wanting to learn how to build digital workflows and systems in both her business and her home. We spent some time together where I literally gave her a tour of how I set up my own systems, and I showed her concrete examples that she could then adapt and make her own. She came with so many questions, and I was completely an open book because that's what coaching is all about, meeting you exactly where you are and giving you the tools that actually work. Here's what Aubrey had to say about our time together. Anoki has a gift for meeting you exactly where you are. From our very first session, she made me feel comfortable enough to dig into the hard stuff while also giving me tools I can put into practice right away. She makes the overwhelming feel doable and the results truly life-changing. Every mom can benefit from her wisdom, her compassion, and her heart for helping you create a life that feels aligned with who you are. Thank you, Aubrey, for those kind words and for trusting me with your goals. This is exactly why I do this work, to help moms like you create routines and systems that bring structure and peace into your life so you can finally have time for yourself and your dreams while staying aligned with your core values. If you're nodding along, yes, that's exactly what I need. I'd love to chat with you about how coaching can help you achieve balance and structure in your own life. You can find the link to book a free exploratory call in the show notes below. So the reason this whole idea came about was that I noticed that there were certain parts of my life that I always felt like I was in a rush to do. And then there were other parts of my life where I was working at a much slower pace than I really wanted to. And so it wasn't always feeling right. The pace that I was in for any given moment or task didn't always feel satisfying. So for example, often when we're trying to get out of the door, everything would feel all of a sudden so rushed and stressful and people yelling at each other and just several minutes of lots of frantic activity. And that would affect my family's entire experience wherever we were going, whether we were going on a field trip or some sort of adventure or some basic errands around town. And then at the opposite end of the spectrum, for example, in our homeschool, we would be working on certain assignments like writing, which is not a favorite with my kids. And so things and tasks and assignments that should have taken just a couple of minutes really would end up taking much longer than they needed to. Has that happened to you where your days kind of feel like you're yo-yoing back and forth? They're sometimes really frenetic and you're constantly like juggling tasks for parenting, for your household responsibilities, managing your own well-being or your family's well-being, and all of that kind of leaving you really exhausted, stressed, and overwhelmed because the timing of your activities, how much time you spend on them, and the speed at which you do them are not fitting your energy level. And then at other times where things just don't seem to be moving fast enough, tasks that lose your attention or feel like you're drifting and you're frustrated and not being productive enough. Now you have to do stuff, you just don't want to spend all of your time doing those things. And so the question is, how are you supposed to balance your ambitions and motherhood when you can't even balance the speed and time that you do different things in the day? Well, I just shared that was what I was experiencing not too long ago. Again, I turned to what is natural to me as a scientist. I know how to experiment, and that's basically what I did, and I found some strategies that really work for me, and I know that they're going to work for you too. And that's why I would like to share them in this episode with you. I think part of having a productive day is knowing how to schedule, how to be efficient, how to find the right cadence for the right tasks and for the right times. So each of the tactics that I'm going to share today work really well with other life planning tools. And so these are definitely going to help you blend your big goals that you have with prioritizing your family. After you try these, you're going to feel more content with what you have to do and when you need to do it. Your tasks are going to feel like they take less time overall, and you'll also have less resistance. Conversations that you want to have are going to be much more substantial because you can be more fully present. You've figured out the right length and speed and depth that you can apply to these things in your life. I think this is really important to do because without intentionally pacing yourself, you're going to stay stuck feeling overwhelmed, like you're in the daily trenches and you're not really thriving. So I am going to share 4 strategies that seem to really work for me. Like I said, I started to experiment. Some things worked, some things didn't. And these are the 4 strategies that I found some consistent positive benefits with and that were allowing me to really have the quality of the outcome that I was looking for and helped me find the right pacing. So sometimes it allowed me to slow down and become less stressful. And sometimes they allowed me to increase my pace or increase the time I spend on something so that I could either go deeper or to work on something in a very slow and intentional way that allows you to actually be more productive. It's the idea of slowing down to achieve more. So the first strategy is to pause before doing the next task. Now, this is really what I'm talking about is like a 2 to 10 minute buffer in there. It is a deliberate pause that you give yourself before you try the next thing, before you move on. Because what it does is it gives your brain a chance to catch up. It allows you to kind of close out that task that you were last doing, sort of refresh, especially if you're using that pause to do something meditative or deep breathing, and then in a way have this mental palate cleanser that helps you move on to the next task. Like I said, as we're out the door and we're realizing the time, we're getting really stressed out and starting to kind of get activated, I tried to build in a little bit of time to pause. Sometimes I use that time to start gathering our backpacks and purses and coats and whatever we need, and I lay them out so that when we actually have to leave out the door, we can just access those things right away. But other times I will just use that time to kind of step outside for a sec or stand by a window and just stare out for a couple of minutes so that I can sort of get myself ready for the burst of activity that's involved with getting out the door. I do this pause for other situations too, like before I have to start work. I might be at my desk, I sit down, I turn on the diffuser, I take a couple deep breaths. I don't really dive straight into the emails or work. I give myself that little pause. I do this before cooking because cooking is not something I really look forward to. A lot of people enjoy it. I don't. It feels like a chore to me, but it is an essential task that must get done. And so before I start, I give myself a little break, a 2-minute pause, 5 minutes if I can afford it. I can also do this before I have to start working out. Some people use working out as their break, and I do that. I do use walking as a break. But when I am about to start some sort of intense workout, or I have to really kind of rally myself before I start working out, then having just a little bit of a pause, taking a couple deep breaths, reminding my body that the pace is about to change really helps me get into that mode of working out and into the right pace for working out. And the result is that it really helps me when I have this pause to remember things that I forget. Like I said, I can gather things and put them at the door. It helps me de-stress and get into the frame of mind for the next thing, like before starting a conversation. So the second strategy is actually breaking up tasks when they take too long. This is when you are trying to find the right balance of speed and depth and length. I like to do this especially when I want to change the speed of the task that I have to do. When I have this big long list of tasks, I really start to slow down, especially if I start off already kind of low energy. Just trying to power through and get it all done sometimes actually takes a lot longer than if I just break it up and do different parts of it at different times when I have higher energy at each of those times. So this doesn't make sense for every kind of task, but definitely think about it when a task takes too long and you find yourself especially slowing down at the tail end of tasks, or when you're doing something that before you start it, you already feel overwhelmed by it. So I gave the example about writing in our homeschool, but honestly, this is something I also do for myself when I'm writing. If you think about the process of writing, there's so many different steps. You don't always think of that. You just think, oh, I have to get my thoughts onto paper. But actually, you have to brainstorm, especially if you're doing a well-structured piece of writing. And then you have to write your first draft, and then you have to make revisions, and you have to organize things and your ideas and stuff. So instead of trying to do all of that, especially for a young child, like my kids are in homeschooling, you can actually break up the different components of writing. Maybe leave brainstorming for one day and move on to writing the first draft later. Later today, maybe the next day, and the same thing for revision. And so what I found is that when I do this, instead of a task which should only take me 1 hour, let's say, and ends up taking me 3 hours because I'm just trying to power through and get it all done regardless of my energy level, if I break it up, the total time that I actually end up spending on it ends up being less than, let's say, the projected 1 hour. Because each time you start it, you might be starting it with a renewed sense of energy. And it also feels so much more possible because you've broken it down. Another example where I do this with is my simple home cleaning system. It's really based on this concept. I break tasks down into different zones. So for example, instead of vacuuming the whole house, I might leave vacuuming for just one particular room. I also break the entire cleaning system into basically 15-minute tasks. So on any given day, I'm really only doing a 15-minute task that is a weekly task, such as cleaning the toilets. And then I do one monthly task that takes 15 minutes, such as cleaning the oven. But then every day, I'm doing the 15-minute weekly task and a 15-minute monthly task, which are all tasks that I use to keep my home clean. And so overall, everything gets done and the house stays clean. What I find is that there's a lot less resistance to starting the task because it doesn't feel as overwhelming and daunting. I'm often able to get the task done in less time. It also really helps in breaking up my day. If I take one task and break it up into 3 different parts of the day, it feels nice. It helps me naturally set the cadence of my day. And the third strategy is very specific to conversations. These can be conversations one-on-one, group conversations, or even in my case, podcast interviews. And the strategy is to switch over to active listening, to emphasize that. Now, maybe some of you are already great at that. You're just natural listeners. But for me, I'm a talker, and it takes a lot of effort for me to stop and just listen. But I mean actively, because when I do that, I'm able to gather more information and help the conversation go to a totally different level. It changes the entire quality of our conversation. Part of active listening is to be very present, to not multitask, no interruptions. When you get an idea, but you want to stay an active listener, it can be helpful to just take some notes down so that you're not interrupting the other person in an attempt to get your idea out before you forget it. What I find from this overall is that our conversations that I end up having are much more substantial. I get to know the other person better. It's really great, especially for friendships and relationships. My communication also becomes so much more efficient because the other person doesn't have to repeat as much. I've already heard them at a very, very deep level. What's really interesting that I didn't really fully understand until I made an active attempt to do this is that there is so much more communication happening when you add the listening component into the conversation. Because when I try to listen and process what the other person is saying, it activates so many more ideas that help me propel the conversation forward. Also, by doing this, you have more control on the length of the conversation, and you can then modulate it, right? And so you are able to spend as much or as little time as you want on that conversation. I know these are so simple, but so good, right? Now, before I share the last strategy with you, I just want to remind you that if you're juggling everything, work, kids, home, and you feel like you're just kind of running on empty, you're giving your family this empty version of you, you know something needs to shift, but you're so overwhelmed by everything on your plate that you can't even think clearly, let alone make a bold move. Listen, it doesn't have to be this hard, okay? So here's what we're going to do together. I'm going to help you eliminate all that decision fatigue and mental load that you can finally feel fulfilled at home and on your big projects. We're going to create your custom life plan. Now that's a GPS for your life's decisions so that you know exactly what's meaningful to you, what your non-negotiables are, what lights you up, and what your long-term vision is. So you're not going to experience any more paralysis from feeling so overwhelmed. No more unnecessary pressure. You are just going to have this clear path forward that's going to help you filter out everything that doesn't align with you. And so if that is the change that you are looking for, then my one-on-one life planning program is exactly what you need right now. It's designed specifically for high-achieving moms, moms with professional backgrounds, moms who are highly skilled or academically minded. You have had your share of success prior to becoming a mom, and now you are struggling. You want to create a clear roadmap that aligns your goals with your values and your vision, right? That's why I want you to head over to the show notes right now. I want you to click on the link for that free exploratory call with me. I have a limited number of open spots. You all know that I also work as a scientific consultant, so I have to be selective with my coaching and my time. But if you want to claim your spot today, then I can get you moving forward with confidence, right? So you can click on that first call. It's completely free. And let's just get you started on your path to getting that life plan, that clear roadmap. And the last, fourth strategy now is finding the right time of the day to do your tasks. Okay, this is absolutely based on your energy level, right? Sometimes tasks are easier to do before you've had food or after you've had food. Maybe you want to avoid doing a particular task right after you've just done another demanding task. So figuring out the energy requirements can really help you set the right rhythm for your day. Another thing that really impacts me is what I'm able to do when the sun is out versus when it's dark. The types of activities I do, of course, there's a little bit of natural common sense. You know, you're probably not going to be hiking when it's pitch dark, but There are just things even around the home or general tasks that you may not think about. Maybe it's driving, maybe it's working on certain projects, right? You might be better at doing some of those things at different times of the day. So in order to do this, you really just want to be generally aware of what your schedule is so that you know the right time to do those things. Because you might see that you're really rushed to get one task done and then feel super sluggish when you're trying to do it. Why not reassign that task to a time when it would take you like half as long to do it, when you're a little more energetic, right? So this might involve a little bit of the chunking method I said, where you break up those tasks, or maybe you're just literally taking that whole task and saying, you know what, this really isn't a good idea for me to do right after I've done my 10-mile run. Why don't I take this task and do this at this other time of the day? And also, this is where buffers really help, because maybe that task is okay to do on the heels of another task, but only if you give yourself at least 5 to 10 minutes of a break in between. So these are the kinds of decisions that only you can make, because you know your body, you know your schedule, and you know what is really demanded out of you for each of these tasks. I'm just going to give you some examples from my own life. Well, depending on what my workout is, I might want to do it first thing in the morning or maybe in the middle of the day. So the types of workouts I like to do often are either running, or I'm doing some sort of stretching routine, or I'm lifting weights. And some of those I will not do first thing in the morning, and some of those things I really enjoy doing later in the day, when it's sunny outside, for example. Another example is that I found for homeschooling, it is so much better for my family, for my kids, to do those things in the morning, the very academic, desk-oriented work. They're a lot fresher and can handle those things. I also tend to clump the harder assignments first for them, because that is the time of the day when they're a little more eager and ready to listen. There are other things that are a lot more hands-on. They're active, requires them to move their body, whether it's a field trip or science experiments. Those things we're totally okay doing closer to lunchtime or even after lunch. I don't often do those first thing in the morning because sometimes they get a little too riled up. When it comes to running errands, I really like to maximize my time and my energy by bundling those tasks together. So I might take all the tasks and just kind of get them done in one go, especially if they're in the same location or if it makes sense, at least driving-wise. And when I do this, overall, I feel so much more content with what I have to do and when I have to do it. I feel a little more in control and capable. So when your pacing in your day is incongruent with your energy level, the time availability that you have in your schedule, it's going to really leave you feeling stressed and unaccomplished. And so today I shared 4 strategies that can really help you adjust and find the right pace and rhythm for your day. So to recap, those 4 strategies were to pause before doing the next task, and I'm talking just a couple minutes. 2, to break overwhelming and long tasks into smaller chunks and finding the right time of the day to do each of those chunks. 3, to be present during conversations by actively listening. You're going to substantially improve the rhythm of the conversation as well as the quality. And 4, finding the right time to do the task based on your energy level. So these are some of the techniques that have worked for me, and if you try one or more of these, you could get the same results that I did, where you can start making progress on your goals and you can nurture your family connections through improved quality time by being present. Here's your next step. I just want you to start with one of these strategies this week. Maybe start with the 2-minute pause, right? It is so easy and you really don't have anything to lose. And then I want you to let me know which strategy works for you. I really want to celebrate your wins with you. Or if you're having a hard time, you can tell me what you're struggling with. I'd love to help. It's actually my honor and passion to do that. So there's a lot of different ways you can reach me. You can email hello@solveformom.com, or you could go to solveformom.com/contact and you can message me. There's actually a message form if you prefer to write out your message, or you can use the voice memo button in just one click. You could just record a message and ask me your question or share your win. Or you can even go onto LinkedIn and tag @solveformom. I love hearing from you guys and I respond to every message I get. So it is one of my favorite parts of the day when I hear from you guys. So truly, don't hesitate and please do share what you are trying. Finding the right daily rhythm and building that into your day is really important because it allows you to pursue important things, your ambitious goals that you have. And if you would like some help with building out that vision and mapping out exactly how you're going to work your way towards that ideal life of yours, then I want you to book that free exploratory call with me. You can go into the show notes and click that button. We're going to map out that plan that honors both your ambitions and keeps your family in the forefront. So thank you guys for spending your time with me today. I know how precious your time is as a busy mom where you're trying to balance all these things. So I'm really grateful that you chose to invest it here today. So take care and I hope to hear from you. I hope today's episode will help you create time and freedom to pursue something you love to do. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe and tell other purpose-driven mamas about it. Who knows? You might even make a new friend by sharing a tip. It's all free. By the way, it would be amazing to hear what you think about the show when you leave a review on Apple Podcasts. After all, my passion is to make this a great experience for you. I'll see you next week for another episode of Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life with Anoki Kapasi.